think it's happening. Oop. That's today's accoutrements. To have ourselves a Harbor Freight ad. We'll just volume that down. Today's breakfast brought to you by Bauer. Buy a battery and charger and get a free tool this weekend at Harbor Freight. Whatever. Let me see if sorry, I'm setting up the monitor over here. Hold please. Setting up the old kitchen monitor. Little delay. Gotta turn the volume down. Nothing wrong with that. Come on, volume, just go down. Here we go. Gotta make some coffee. I am struggling right now. Man, I told myself I was gonna make bacon today, and you know what I didn't do? I didn't thaw my bacon out. So you know what I'm not gonna do? I'm not gonna have bacon. You know what that makes you want to do? Have bacon. Whatever. I thought about just doing the old frozen bacon slab, but it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd eat all that bacon, but it's probably more than one person's portion of bacon that's available in the package that I've got going, so it's like, give me waffles instead. Okay. Sorry, I'm like still deep in, I have no idea how long I was silent there for. I'm hypnotized right now. I'm an autopilot. Just going through the motions. We'll do a glass of juice, get some natural, whatever you call it, fruit flavors in the system. We'll get some banana power in the old system here. That'll get me going. What do we got? Today we've got the orange strawberry banana juice blend from Concentrate, which is an excellent source of vitamin C. Let's see. So it's going to be water and pear juice concentrate and apple juice concentrate and orange juice concentrate and strawberry puree and banana puree and pineapple juice concentrate with citric acid, natural flavor, and absorbic acid. So that's interesting. It's actually apple, pear, pineapple. I mean, why don't they put that on the front? I'd be into that. The banana part kind of freaks me out a little bit. I have a love-hate relationship with bananas. Like, I'll eat a banana, but like, man. Like, how do you put banana in juice, not have the juice turn like banana brown? Yeah, that's pretty good. That's actually really good. The old banana brown. The old brown banana. All right. Well, I got a fun story about my waffle iron. The last time I used this waffle iron, I went ahead and left it plugged in for, more hours than I can count. Like, made breakfast, left it plugged in, went out in the garage, did a bunch of stuff in the garage, came back in a long time later, and it was like, something smells funny. And it was like, oh, yeah, you left the waffle iron plugged in, you dingbat. So I'm not even 100% sure if this is going to be operating. I don't know what kind of technology the old, I'm going to go ahead and say that's a a late 1900s waffle iron. That's my new favorite way to describe well, the part of the time history line that I grew up in that started with the 1900s. In the late 1900s, the waffle irons had, I think these were called extension cordas. They had extension cordas that went to a wall outlet. Extension cordas into a wall outlet in the late 1900s. Because we're watching this video in the future and everything's wireless and battery powered. So, that's right. A late 1900s waffle iron. I just realized I don't have any of the measuring devices out to prepare the secret sauce to go into the late 1900s waffle maker. Is it a 2/3 cup? Oh God, I don't even remember how to do this. Oh, we gotta have water. We gotta have juice. That's for later. Those are toppings. That's for the coffee. 2/3 cup pour. All right. Well, we're just gonna go with that. We're gonna do 2 cups of powder. 1.5. I need some veg oil. Hold, please. The old vegetable oil. And I probably ought to use this up. I got a little bit left of the old. Hopefully it's not questionable. Questionable. I got a brand new package in the pantry, but it's like, I mean, waste not, want not, I think is how the saying goes. We're gonna sell a grapefruit too in a second, but I want to get this powdery mix started here. This is the hard part of the test where I have to count to 2. And not mess it up. There we go. Wait, see, I almost messed it up. It's got to be cups. I almost just did that wrong. Whoa. Coffee is shooting along nicely. I'm doing this weird. Why am I doing it like the way I'm doing it? Why am I... Yeah. Let's use our strategies and be strategic. Well, we're just making a mess. Screw it. The mess is made. Well, we're not going to do what we just did on the second cup. I'm just going to get over here. You ever know how to do something and then you start doing it and you think to yourself, man, I don't want to do it the way I'm supposed to do it. I'm just going to do it the way you're not supposed to do it. I'm still going to scoop it in there. I was taught to scoop floury-esque materials into the cup and not actually scoop. That's why you use another thing to fill your container. That's how I was taught. Now, I've since learned that an even better way is to weigh your flour. I think the reason that most people... I don't know how to say the words. I think the reason that the perceived, which is true, proper way to fill a measuring cup, such as this, with a powder such as that, is to scoop it in, is to avoid compaction, thus making a more accurate measurement. But a more accurate way is to do by weight, because then compaction is not an issue. But the reality is, for all of mankind's history up until, I don't know, the last little bit, people haven't had particularly readily available scales in their kitchen. Definitely not digital scales in their kitchen that run on batteries. I know it's going to be a hard one for a lot of people, but that's a new phenomenon. That is not a thing that's been around forever. Any hoosies. That light just shut off. Does that mean something? Oh yeah, good news. It still heats up. Gonna add some water here. I think it's a cup and a half. So here we go. None of that metric business. Get out of here, metric. Metric, go home. We're using freedom units. Freedom! Oh man, I was having a conversation last night with some online gaming buddies, and there's a. That seems like I put way too much water in there. What did I do wrong? 1.5 cups, 2 cups. Why does that seem like soup? I put 1.5 cups of water in there. This is like the soupiest shit I've ever seen in my life. I didn't do something right. That's wrong. The price is wrong, Bob. It's too liquidy. Add some oil because 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. Check! We're gonna have to augment this batter. That's way too thin. Even my stupid, uncaffeinated brain can see that. Anyways, I was chatting with some of my online buddies, and I play with actually I play with a couple married couples, which is fun. Last night it was with a certain group of married couples, and they were telling a story about some shit they're having to deal with, and it was like, oh man, I felt bad for them. It's like death in the family stuff, but like step sibling situation where they're the step in the situation, I guess, because that's just how it worked out, and that they're clearing the house out. And the reason they're having to be in charge is because they're the ones that live near, but they're not the biological, and they're not the executors. And I'm just like, oh my god, that is like nightmare fuel. Just absolutely bonkers shit. So I was trying to be encouraging to them and say, hey, there's got to be some great stuff in that house. And the more I tried to be, I don't know, encouraging, the more I found out how much fucking terribleness there is going on. I was like, oh my god. I don't know what it is about me, but I was starting to get excited about hearing about some of the treasures in the house. They tried to sell for the estate what was it called? Like an infrared sauna. And they had it all lined up, and a dude drove to come buy it. And then they he showed up, and essentially they turned it on to demonstrate it or whatever, and the thing crapped out on him. And this dude had to drive home with nothing after 4 hours of driving, and I was just like, whoa, that's intense. That is intense. So I said, well, I could drive my truck. She did the math. It'd be a 6-hour drive for me, 12-hour total. I said, I'll come get that broken sauna and I'll put it in my house. Give me a 1-person infrared sauna, needs repairs type of deal. Oh god. I was like, get a list of all the treasures, and if you can get a truckload of treasures, I might come down and pick them up. So far, we had a bunch of broken shit, and then an old chiropractor's table. It was kind of funny because the one of the dudes in the group, he just casually, lightly mentioned, he's like, my dad's a chiropractor, and those old chiropractic tables, people love those things because they're it'd be like a carpenter having an old carpenter's tool hanging on his wall, a thing that people do. Whatever. It sounded to me like they had a bunch of work coming their way for not much appreciation or compensation, which kind of is shitty. I wish them the best. I wish them the best. I'll tell you what else was funny. So having gone through homes of elderly and heard stories. So like I gave them my little bits of solid advice of like look through some of the stuff before you chuck it, because old people do weird stuff like hide stuff in books and tape things. And someone told a story. It's like, oh yeah, we went through one of their relatives and they were finding like money taped to the bottom of drawers and shit, and like all this, like, because everyone's got crazy stories about people doing crazy shit. And he was like, well, we found a bunch of change, and we any coin or money, because like they're not the executors, they're just supposed to be like organizing this shit, I guess, somehow, which I don't quite understand, but they're doing it. I can't remember. He found some, like, I don't know. I can't remember what he said. $100 maybe of coins. And I was like, damn, dude, you should like ordered a pizza or something while you're working there and just paid out of the coins. Like, good lord. And then everyone was just joking about paying a pizza delivery guy in coins. It's like, yeah, he delivered it on a bike and had to drive away with 10 pounds of fucking nickels on his back. All right, the light's back on. I don't know what that means. Does that mean go or does that mean stow? We're going to let that sit there for a little bit and ruminate, I guess. That cutting board does not look particularly clean, but I know it's gone through the dishwasher, so in my mind, has achieved its final cleanliness. Oh, see, that light just turned off, so that's encouraging. No, I want you to stay upright there, Fred. We're going to go with thin slivers. Thick grapefruit slivers doesn't work good for me. It's too much power in a grapefruit to be eating thick slices of it. All right. Grapefruit is sliced. The Toastmaster is about to... The late 1900s Toastmaster with plug-in style electronics. For you young kids that don't know, that's how electronics worked in the beginning. Back in the late 1900s, we had to plug our electronics in. This batter still seems extremely thin to me. I guess I can go back and watch the beginning of the video to see what I did wrong, but I'm pretty sure I put 2 in. It said 2 cups of mix, 1.5 cups water, 2 tablespoons oil. I'm pretty sure I did that. I mean, it's only a 2 cup thing. I'm pretty sure, yeah, okay. Here we go. Here we go. Maybe the thinner batter will flow more precise and make a less mess. I turn you into a poet. It's a less mess. What kind of mess are you making? A less mess. Okay. Yummy. Oh well. So I'm trying to think what I've been up to. I recently received some paintings from a family member. So I've been trying to figure out what these paintings are. And it's getting very interesting. It's getting very, very interesting. And it's 2 of the paintings in particular. They're a set. And there's a signature on both of them. I can't read the signature, and I'm trying to figure it out. And I don't know what they are exactly, but it's starting to look like they're super duper old. And when I say super old, they might be from like the 1700s. I'm not even exaggerating. It's kind of crazy. There was a master Italian Venetian painter from the 1700s that painted in a style, and these paintings are painted in that exact style. And this guy, he taught, and he had students. So there's a chance these are paintings of one of his students. Unfortunately, I don't think they're the main dude, because his name is different than. There's no way that signature is that guy's name. It's a shame, because if they were that dude, they would literally be worth millions of dollars, which is mind-boggling. But they may be one of his students, because they are old as the hills, and the style is exactly his style. And the oxidation on the paintings is tremendous, which is indicative of really old paintings. I spent like an hour and a half last night like looking into that shit, trying to figure it out. But yeah, it's crazy. Unfortunately, one of the paintings had something lean against it at some point in its life, so there's like, the canvas has like a stretch mark. It's stretched, which sucks. But it's in a fortunate spot where it's stretched inside of an archway, so it just gives it a little more depth, right? Stay positive. Because I'm doing the research trying to figure out how this works, and I started coming across like auction listings and things for sale, and they're listed as in the style of, or a, I'm trying to remember how they. And it's not just this guy's paintings. Any artist of the time, they'll call them in the style of, and they'll be contemporary to the time. And it's just like, how to describe it? It's like, and when any painting's made, the day it's made, it's a brand new painting. It's not an old ancient painting. And that dude's just slinging paintings, Like, he's a guy. He puts paint on canvas. He paints. Well, there's another dude trying to sling paintings too, and like, the one guy, like, maybe he paints 10 paintings, and he sells 9 of them, and then his contemporary, the guy with the booth down the street from him, is like trying to sell paintings. He's not selling very many. He's like, well, I'm gonna just copy his shit. So he starts copying his style and painting that way. And then you maybe like, oh, I'm going to teach people how to paint. Well, I want to learn how to paint like you paint. And the guy just starts teaching paintings. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And then I found out there's services. This is like blows my mind. And I never heard of this. There are services where you can have a human paint you a painting in any style that you want, or a copy of any painting you want. It'll be done on canvas, painted in paint, and you can hang it on your wall. And they'll give you a little certificate that says, yep, this is a copied painting, and then you hang it on your wall, and it's like, yep, that's a real painting on a wall in that style, but it's like, Pablo didn't paint that one, but Joe Smith did, and you have like a Pablo-looking painting on your wall. Not especially inexpensive to have done, to have the copied paintings done, but like, whoa, it's nutsified. So I'm still trying to figure out how to read that signature, because it's like super hard to figure out. It's like a bunch of like either I's or L's. But I mean, I went to art school, so I'm not a dummy. And one of the things I realized when it comes to, not really like contemporary art so much, but like, oh, that goddamn thing stuck. Ah! That is hammered on there. How tragic is this? Did I not oil this? Did I not oil this? I know I oiled it. I would not waffle it in a boat. I would not waffle it with a goat. Well, these are called deconstructed waffles. Is this the result of extreme heating of a waffle iron for way too long in my previous use? It's like every other time I use this, everything sticks. Less than convenient, kids. So anyways, I was back telling my crybaby stories about how I got paintings that might be nice. One of the things I learned, and I say I learned it because I didn't realize it before I learned it, obviously, was like art, paintings, sculptures, whatever, we're just gonna do that. I mean, essentially anything that's like a piece of art or a sculpture or a painting. I mean, photography is a little different because, well, I guess modern people, like young people now, maybe not so familiar, but like when I was growing up, a photograph was not like an odd thing. Like people took photos, we had photos, and you interacted with photos, and it was just like, yeah, it's a photograph. So people's everyday experience with photographs was pretty pedestrian. But not everybody was around original pieces of artwork. Posters, posters and reprints, that's a little more, people were more familiar with that because you like go to the mall, get a poster, you had a poster. So like seeing a poster was like, oh, it's just a poster, but like, oh, this is like crumbles coming off this thing. Not everybody was ever around an original piece of artwork. So what happens when you are around an original piece of artwork for the first time, it seems like your impression of what it would be like is going to be different than what it actually is. Because like, the other thing that's really weird is like, when it comes to art, it's like only the famous artists, right? Oh, there's 7 famous artists. Like, well, yeah, no, those are very famous pieces of work, but like, there are lots more pieces of art made than the 7 famous, painters or whatever. So what happens is a person will be in front of an actual original piece of artwork, and they'll look at it and they'll be like, well, that's nothing because it's just like a piece of canvas with some paint on it. No big deal. That's good. That's not a big fancy piece of artwork. Well, in reality, that's what a big fancy piece of artwork is. It's painting on a piece of canvas or a board or whatever. So if you're not familiar with it, like your expectation is, oh, it should be something more. It should be more amazing. It should be more, like, I don't know, uniformed, or like there's like a preconceived notion of what it should be like. When you're confronted with it right in your face, you just default to like, that's not a thing. I think one of the craziest things I've ever seen is I know some people who bought a house, and the previous owner of this house was a very wealthy, well, it was a family, very wealthy family. And they had a fancy architect design their house, and it was an Austrian architect, I think, if I remember right. Oops. Born in Austria, anyways. And he came to the part of the country that I live in, and he designed this house, but his designs were not suitable for this climate and these weather conditions, so the house was like, nah, that ain't gonna work. So the people who were wealthy enough were like, well, this house sucks. The roof's not built for these conditions, it leaks. They just built another house they had a big property. So they just kind of like, we don't need that house, we'll just build another house. So they did. Well, these people were like, they were the level of wealth where they would go to, I believe, New York, and they would visit Jackson Pollock, who's a very famous abstract artist. And they purchased paintings from Jackson Pollock when he was alive. They were patrons of his. A lot of their collection they bought from Jackson Pollock is in museums now, donated on loan and stuff. Which is pretty wild stuff. Okay. So fast forward to these people that I know bought this house. And when they bought the house, it was like, here's the house. They divided the land off. This is your land. This is your house. This is your problems. This is your hole in your roof. This is all you. And they said, fine, they took it. And they moved into the house, and they were going through. There was stuff in the house still. They literally found, and I told the dude, I was like, you need to figure this out. But I talked to him. Jackson Pollock had a series of paintings he did on doors. Some of his first abstract art was on doors. And the guy knew that I was a carpenter or whatever, and he's like, dude, I want to show you something. And he pulled me in, he's like, look at this. And he showed me a door with abstract sprayed paint on it. And I was like, Jesus Christ. That's a Jackson Pollock, because I could tell instantly by looking at the door that was not a modern door. It wasn't a current age door. It was hand cut hinges, all this. So it was an old door. I knew the people that owned the house before him were patrons of Jackson Pollock. It was like, holy Christ, dude! Like that's priceless. There's like, I don't even know. It's like mind-boggling. It's like there's not a lot of Jackson Pollocks on doors, and the very few they are like rarest hen's teeth, and they're super valuable. And you bought a house from a dude that used to buy paintings from Jackson Pollock personally, visit him in New York. I was like, there's a really good chance it's a Jackson Pollock, dude. Like, holy shit. He's like, yeah, we got people looking into it. And I was like, I bet, dude. Like, that's retirement shit right there. That's like never work again the rest of your life. But the reality is that can be a real thing. Like Jackson Pollock just painted on some crappy old doors. He did it. And when he's doing it, he's like, well, this will be worth $1 million. Like, you're just slinging paint, you know what I mean? This shit's wild. It's kind of that way with like almost anything that's extremely expensive. Because I mean, I'm not immune to it. I'm not around expensive stuff that often. And when I say expensive, I'm talking about stuff that's expensive because of its rarity, not expensive because it costs a lot to make. For example, a fancy iPhone is expensive. And it's due to the fact that it costs a lot to produce that thing, especially if you get the fancy one, right? Well, that kind of expensiveness isn't the same as something that's expensive because it's rare and you can't replace it. It's two different types of value. And most people, myself included, are not around things very much that are extremely valuable due to rarity. So when you are around weird, odd, random, expensive shit, it doesn't seem like it would be. A great example of that is like if you've heard stories of people buying costume jewelry at thrift stores and they turn out to be like giant diamonds. The reason that can happen is because no one is ever around a giant fucking diamond. Like, nobody has one. What's the biggest diamond a normal person would ever see? Like, that big on a ring, and that's going to be super expensive. So if you see a diamond this big, you're going to default to that can't be real because those don't exist, because those aren't anywhere in my circle. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting phenomenon. I'm sure there's a word for it. Like there was one of the Fabergé eggs was found at a thrift store. Because no one could believe that would be a real Fabergé egg. Because why would there be a Fabergé egg in a thrift store? Those are museums and shit. It's pretty interesting. And I'm not saying those paintings I've got are like super crazy expensive, valuable, but like the more I stare at them, the more I realize how well they're painted. And the more I look at like the back of the frame, I realize how old they are. I mean, they are old. I mean, really old. Like not... Like I don't think those paintings were painted. And then anyone I would ever have known, or anyone I've known who knew them, or anyone I know who knew them, bought them. Those were used from an art dealer who acquired some fucking ancient ass old paintings from somebody along the line of history. Like they are old paintings, like crazy old. I haven't started. There's a third one. I haven't really. I looked at it a little bit. I haven't quite figured out what's going on with that thing. The third one's not a canvas painting. It's actually on a piece of wood And I don't know if it's a lithograph on wood or what it is. I don't think it's a painting. And then it was veneered with a coat of veneer, but they did a process with it where there was like stuff added to the veneer to make it look older, which is kind of weird, but like I don't know how to really describe it. That one I'll have to investigate in because right now there's a piece of cardboard, modern cardboard, kind of taped to the back, and I need to pull that off and look behind it and try to figure out what's going on. But and it's possible that like those two oil paintings aren't from the 1700s. They could be from like the 1800s. They could be painted 100 years after the original dude painted his series. I mean, these were like, what do they call them? Like Renaissance masters. That's the style that painting is in the Renaissance master style. Like I literally found the guy who painted the originals of those, and like it's a very, very good rendering of his style of painting, and that dude's a very famous painter. So I don't know. It's like it's either one of his students or something. So I'm gonna have to do a little more looking. Supposedly there might be like places where I can do a little more investigating as far as like if I were to submit a photograph of the signature or something. There are people who might be able to help me figure that out. But like all sorts of crazy stuff starts happening, and I don't think it's what would you call it in my scenario. But I've heard stories of like people who had things that were like really nice. I think one of the stories I heard, it was like either place setting stuff or I don't know, whatever. So someone had some stuff in their family where like, oh, I got this from my mom and dad, and they got it from their mom and dad, and they got it from their mom and dad. And it's like it's passed down. And after like 2 or 3 generations of people pass it down, one of the people who it becomes theirs, like, you know what? I'm gonna sell this thing. And they go to sell it, they find out like, oh no, that was stolen. That was stolen from the king and queen by one of their servants, who turns out was one of your relatives. And it's like, what? Like I've heard stories of that where like former like things that were like taken by people who worked in the palace, and then when you first take it you wouldn't tell anybody, and then you leave it to somebody and they'd kind of would know the story, but after like 2 or 3 handings down, the story of how you acquire it kind of disappears. Yeah, that shit's funny. But I'm pretty sure my I don't think my paintings are contraband, but it's pretty wild. Because like I'm not interested in getting rid of them. I think they're cool. I like them, especially since like I can see them up close and like, yeah, they're really well painted. It's like how to describe it? They're painted in a manner where if you stand close, the paint strokes are just random blobs and random lines. But as you step away, the lines blur and they start making like things that look very precise. Which is like, that's a really cool thing in a cool way to paint. Like the figures, there's people in the paintings kind of from the back, and they're just like random blobs. Like when you look close, they're nothing. But when you stand back, it makes, oh, there's the legs and the head, and like it's like yeah, it's cool. So that's fun. I like doing stuff like that, figuring stuff out. I'm a huge fan of original art. I've actually got a really good collection at this point in my life. Like surprisingly, a shockingly good collection of original art. but posters are cool too. I got a Miro print in my kitchen. That was a funny conversation. Like, the person that gave it to me was like, "Yeah, we got a Miro laying around." I was like, "You have a Juan Miro painting? Like, give me a break." I mean, there's no way. He's like, "Oh yeah, we got one. I think it's in storage. I'll bring it over." He's like, "You're gonna bring a Juan Miro over to my house?" I go, "Yeah, we'll hang it right on my wall." He brings it over, and it's like, "Dude, that's a print." It's like, "Yeah, it's a Miro," and I'm like, "Well, okay." There is a difference between an original painting and a picture of an original painting. And don't get me wrong, you still got to pay for the print, and you still got to get it framed, and that isn't free. But there is a massive difference. Here, I'll show you my Juan Miro. You want to see my Miro? Here it is. You ready? I put googly eyes on it. See, it's got googly eyes. That's my Juan Miro. Miro was a Spanish artist who did that style painting. So there you go. I think that's the only print I have in my house that's not an original. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Good times. Well, hopefully this waffle doesn't stick inside the old, yeah. I got a Game Boy too. I'm actually really excited about that Game Boy. It's got some bad pixels. I'm going to have to do a little repair work on it. I'm going to do a video about it because... Oh, you effing effer. You fiddling fiddler. Yeah, I'm going to do a video on that Game Boy. I think it's rad. Try to figure out when I'm going to shoot that. I should probably shoot it today, but... I keep looking out my window and thinking to myself, "Oh man, you should go do some work in the yard, work in the garden." I'm like, meh. Not feeling it. Doing other things. Alright. So that's fun. Whatever. Good times on the old broken waffle. I assume that the stretched part of those paintings came from being put in storage. Because stuff happens, you know. I think in the story of those paintings, that was a deal where, like, the house had to be emptied, and the solution was just to put everything in storage to deal with it at a further date. And then when that date came, the dealing with it was kind of just like, what the hell are we going to do with all this stuff? And yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to get like a history on the paintings written up so I can attach it to the back, because that's like one of the harder things to do with art, is like figure out where it came from. The term is provenance. And that's really important. I don't think in these paintings it's going to be that important, but like it's really important with like really high-end art to like have a provenance, so it's like a chain of custody as far back as you can possibly go. because these items, once again, not the stuff I have, but like they were created and then potentially they just disappeared. And sometimes there's information that they did exist, but if it goes into a private collection, no one would ever see it again unless the person who owns it wanted people to see it. And they can be traded hands privately, and there are copies that can be made. This is provenance. I watched a video last night of a guy who was talking about, how to look at paintings and stuff and try to help figure out what's going on. He told a story how he went to a fine art auction, because he's an art dealer. He went to a fine art auction, and there was a painting on display for sale, and it was listed as a reproduction, which, in the scheme of things, a reproduction or a copy or an homage of is never ever going to be the same as the original. It's not even close. It's not that reproductions and homages can't be valuable, they're just not on the same ballpark. So anyways, there was no one interested in this painting at this auction. And the guy said there was thousands of people there and art dealers from all over. And he was like, oh, that's weird. So he started looking at it. And he was an art dealer, and he's like, I'm going to take a look at this thing. He looked at the back, and he's like, well, I understand why they think it's a reproduction. On the back of the painting was a brand new piece of canvas. Brand new. Looked like it came off the roll yesterday. Pure white, brand new canvas. And it's like, well, that's brand new canvas, obviously. But he was a well-trained dealer, or I don't know what the word would be, art conservationist or whatever. So he started really looking at it, and he saw that there was the framing, the stretcher of the canvas, or the stretcher for the canvas was really dark, which means that's really old. Like when the wood turns dark, it's oxidizing and it's turning dark. So that's weird. It's a brand new piece of canvas on a really old stretcher. And he started looking around because you could see where the new staples were and all that, but he also saw there was a lighter band and there was things missing. Well, what had happened, it was an original piece of artwork, and someone who had owned it, what else did he say? He looked at the front, and he could tell it was actually painted, and he could see a spot where damage, something had hit the painting, and it put a bullseye crack in the sky, in the clouds. It was a landscape scene. Something had hit the painting and had cracked the paint. So what had happened is the owner of the painting, someone damaged the painting either through insurance or they paid on their own. They had it restored by having another piece of canvas layered to the back to stiffen it from this damaged impact spot. It actually may have been ripped and they had it repaired. So it was a repaired original painting. And this auction house didn't catch it. Nobody else caught this. And this guy bought this thing for no dollars at all. And it was a very valuable, rare, it's just what? That's crazy. But it was even those people were fooled by the and I don't know what the word is. It's it's the collective agreement. I'm an expert, you're an expert. We look at it, oh no, that's brand new. It's okay. He just kept screaming, look at the back of the painting, look at the back of the painting. The back of the painting is more important than the front of the painting. Look at the back of the painting, look at the back of the painting. It's all right. When I look at the back of the paintings, these ones I just got, they look old enough to be they look old enough that they could have came across on the Mayflower. They look ancient. Just ancient. I've never seen canvas looking so old. That's why I'm just man, these are old. I don't think these are 50-year-old paintings. I literally think they're 100 or more years old. I swear to God, they are old as hell. It is the craziest thing. I've never seen paintings that old with my own eyes. I've never been around a canvas painting on oil that was that old. I never had the opportunity to see one with my own eyes because normally that shit's on a wall in a museum and you can't see the back of it because they don't want you touching it. It's pretty wild stuff, but there's a pretty good chance that it was painted by a student of that famous Venetian painter. It's probably one of his students who painted that. Because I read an article that said he was a teacher and he taught, and his students would paint in his style. It's like, holy shit, that's bonkers. Like, it's super bonkers. So like the next thing I gotta do, I gotta figure out where the fuck I'm hanging these things, because right now they're kind of leaning against the table in a terrible position to get kicked, and that'd be bad. My vacuum might turn on and vacuum through them. I only own one other original oil painting. And that's another one. It's a signed oil painting, and I have no goddamn clue who painted it. It's really well done. But whatever. Whatever. I'm really interested to figure out the third one. I don't think it's a cheap piece of garbage. I just don't understand what it is. I don't know if it's a lithograph on wood. I feel like it's a lithograph. I feel like it's printed. But not printed like from Kinko's for $1.50. But I'm almost positive it's not an oil painting. But I had a conversation with the person who gave it to me, and it kind of sounded like the one that I think is a lithograph or a printed image was like the main one that was like the prized possession of the family. Where like it was like that one hung up in the room, like that was the one. It's got a huge frame around it. So, like the two oil paintings, they look like they have taggage on the back that leads me to believe that they were purchased from an art dealer. Because there are identification number tags on the back that are modern, like they're not ancient. You know, when I say modern, I mean like after electricity was invented and people drove cars modern, you know, like that type of deal. So whatever, it's fun. That's the kind of things I love to do. Look at stuff like that, try to figure it out, and yeah, it's exciting. I just don't know where I'm gonna. Try where I'm gonna hang them. I'm thinking maybe dining room, but I'm not sure how much light comes in there. It's either dining room or maybe in the office, like all the way across from the. But there's a huge window in the office. Yeah. I want to figure something out. Excuse me. Internet's making my nose run. So, yeah, that's always fun. Always fun doing stuff like that. I'm not sure what else is going on. Just another day in paradise. I don't know if I can turn the camera around and talk for 6 minutes. I'm getting close to being done here. Oop. I'm gonna raise the camera a little bit. Hey! You looking at my cabinets? Calm down, weirdos. Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, do you have any opinion on whether, like, I swear to God, like, 1800s would not be a stretch of the imagination on those paintings. I swear to God, it's not. It actually could be the late 1700s. It's like Venetian Renaissance master is what that style is. It's a Venetian Renaissance master. Like, I can't remember the guy's name. I have it on my computer. It's like Gia something. But I cannot make that signature jive with the way his name's spelled. So I know it's not that. I know it's not an original of the dude. But I think it might be one of his. I swear to it, it might be one of his students, which is bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers because I found listings on auction sites that they were attributed to an unknown artist in the style of from the 17 whatever is how it was listed in the auction listings. Obviously not those images because you would never get that image twice because it's hand painted. But like in that style, like a ruin with the figures painted in the way they're painted with the it's like the same style. So like it's a real thing that exists. I just got to figure out if that signature is potentially, how could you describe it? It'd be like you got Michael Jordan playing basketball, right? The greatest basketball player who ever lived. But Scottie Pippen is trust me, I scrolled through I was from 10:30 till 2 in the morning I was scrolling. I found websites that have artist signatures, but a lot of that stuff doesn't go back that far. Like I really think they're probably I swear, I think they're like 200-year-old paintings. I swear to God, it's crazy. And they don't have catalog of artists for 200 years. Like most of the artist signatures are like modern ones. Anyways, what I was saying was if it's Michael Jordan, he's the greatest basketball player who ever lived. That's true. Scottie Pippen was the number 2 player on that team. Well, Scottie Pippen's a big deal, and people like Scottie Pippen, and his signature is worth a lot, but nothing compared to Michael Jordan. But if Michael Jordan had never been born, Scottie Pippen would have been the greatest basketball player to ever live. So, like, the Venetian master was the master of Venice in that style. So his number 2 or number 3, it's just like it goes under the radar a little bit. And I'm sure somehow that's categorized, like, oh, this was his best student or his second best student. And I'm sure that's all known someplace. I got to figure it out. And it's possible, fingers crossed, that signature is of one of his premier students because, like, the more I look at that painting, it is not a fucking shitty painting. That is a very well painted painting. Like, it's crazy. Like, I don't know what the word for it. It's like the gesture, the way the paint was applied. Like, you can't, it's not painted by, like, doing very, like, detail. Like, I'm going to get this edge right here. It's like, it was just like, whoop, and there's a leg, and whoop, there's another leg. It's like, it's very skilled. And when you're close, it's abstract. When you look close at those figures, it's just a bunch of blobs. But when you stand back, your eye blurs it all into an image, and it makes a figure. It's like, it's really well done. Like that's the thing that just is blowing me away about it. It's like, God damn, they're really well painted. Now the scene, I'm not over the moon about the scene. I mean, Venetian Roman ruins is what they are, arches and shit. Which I guess, whatever. I mean, whatever. I don't even know what to say, but it's just like it's super crazy. Super crazy. Like I think at some point in their life they were varnished. Which is a thing that you do to preserve a painting. So like the way it works is you paint a painting and the painting is painted. And then as time goes by, it starts to craze. It'll crack. The painting cracks. And then the painting will actually start falling off the canvas. And a way that you would preserve that is you would take it to a person, hopefully, that knows what they're doing. And they would varnish the painting. They'd put a clear coat over it, basically. Back in the day, you didn't go to Sherwin-Williams and buy clear coat. It was called varnish or shellac. Like shellac comes from beetles. It's like beetle husks. And I know it's been varnished or shellac because I can see where some of the paint has fallen off the painting. The oil is off the painting, And when they were putting the clear coat on, that chunk that fell off reattached itself and it's upside down. I found a spot where there's a chunk of the oil paint that released from the canvas, inverted so you can see the texture of the oil painting on the back where it was originally, and it's stuck right back to the thing. Like you could probably take your finger and pluck it off. And that's the thing that you would do on a painting to preserve it. And you wouldn't preserve like a piece of shit. Like none of that stuff is $0. Like you don't say, oh, I'm going to have a guy restore this fucking print I got at the mall. Like, no, that ain't happening. Nope. That's what like really makes me believe like they're super old paintings. Like probably owned by lots and lots and lots of people over the years and sold and traded and art dealers. I'm almost positive of it. I swear to God. I'm not even like blowing smoke up people's ass. It's just like the shit is got to be old. I just don't know who or how old. And yeah, unfortunately, I know for a fact it's not the dude that originated that style. Because if it was, I would be fucking auctioning that shit at Christie's and I'd buy an island and I'd be retiring forever. But it's not because the names don't match. Trust me, I looked into it. Because I got very excited for like maybe 5 minutes. I was like, holy shit. Because like that shit's like, his paintings are in the Met. They're in the whatever, like they're his originals. Like I can't think of his name. I could go in the other room. Giodini or something like that. I can't remember what it is. But trust me, I stared at that signature looking for a G at the beginning. There's got to be a G in here someplace, and I was like, that's not a G. I don't think that's a G. It's like an E. It's like EHLLI something, and I'm like, I went through an alphabetical list of every known fucking artist on the planet Earth who ever lived. I went through all the E's, like, it's got to be an E, but it's a lowercase E, which is weird. That's why I don't know if there's a letter I can't see. I don't know but like, trust me, I went through every. What I really did is I've been checking for double L's because I'm pretty sure it's 2 L's in a row. So I'm like, looking for double L's. I'm going through. I'm pretty sure it's a Venetian artist, so I could go to either Italian artist or Venetian artist, and then I go, when I find out, I look over, I look for a double L's in the names. I'm just like, just checking. I can't figure it out. So I don't know. The only thing I can come up with is it's a student or an understudy is probably what it is, which I'm cool with. I mean, it's crazy. I probably need to talk to my uncle and try to get more information out of him because, you know, he grew up with him in his house. But he may just be like, I don't know. It's possible. But they're definitely not modern reproductions. That's for sure. I mean, if they were modern reproductions, that'd be more like a forgery, and then you would put you would forge a signature. You wouldn't put a random signature on there. Because like there are people that'll do that. They'll go in and they'll take really old stuff and try to make it look like it's old based on like old. At least you're out there. Old manuscripts sometimes had blank pages, so they go in and they take the old blank pages out of the manuscripts. So you start with a piece of paper that's like, oh, it's a 500-year-old piece of paper, and then they would fake a thing on a 500-year-old piece of paper. So then when the analysis is done, it's like, well, the paper's 500 years old, and the inks they use are contemporary with the inks they used at the time. There's no way to know any other way. Yeah, no, I mean, it's not a thing I'm going to figure out in a week. Like, I'll spend some time figuring it out. I mean, I'm going to figure it out because it needs to be known. And it needs to be, like, written down. But just, like, the darkness and, like, also the construction, the way that the stretcher is built, that technique, because, like, I don't know if you even looked at the back or seen the back. The way the wedges go in. So, like, the frames are not old. Like, those aren't 200-year-old frames. Those are more contemporary frames. But that's common. Like, the painting's a painting. You put it in the frame that you want. So, like, if you were, let's say that you were in the market for a high-dollar painting. You would go and you would buy your painting, and then you would be like, well, I want this color frame. I mean, that's just how you do it. That's how people do it. Same with, I mean, for example, photography. You buy some nice photos when you're on a trip maybe to Canada, and you take it to your frame guy, and he just like, what kind of frames do you want? And you're like, I like that, and you put it in the frame. Well, if you bought an old photograph, if you buy an old photograph and you put it in a new frame, it's still an old photograph in a new frame. That's how it works. Yeah, I don't think anyone's taken a look at these things because they were just like a thing in a thing. It was like it's a thing in a storage and we're getting rid of it type of a deal. That's literally what all this is. It's like, whoa. That's why when I was told about it, I'm like, yes, definitely. Definitely, I will take a look at those. Let's take a look at that shit. I mean, ooh, that's a burned waffle. I mean, that could be a thing where it's like, damn, that thing is super crisped. Shit. I mean, that's a realistic possibility of, hey, honey, we're going to take a trip to Europe. Yay, let's go to Europe. Where are we going? We're going to Venice. Yay, we're in Venice. Let's get something. Oh, there's an art gallery. Okay, let's go to the art gallery. You see anything you like? Ooh, I love those. Yeah, we'll take that set. Have them shipped. And then 2 paintings at a gallery in Venice, potentially. I don't know if this happened. Just got shipped back to the States, and when they came in, we'll just ship them to the gallery near where we live, and we'll have them framed, and frames were put on around them. You know, that's a real possibility of how something like that could happen. Like, for example, you could go to China, and you could go to the, let's see, where could you go? You could go to where the terracotta warriors are buried, and you could have your husband and wife there, and you could be like, hey, we like that. We'll take one of those, have it shipped. And then you'd go on with your trip. Then months later, they could send you one in the mail broken. And then you could call them back, be like, no, you broke ours. Oh, and they send you another one, right? And then you got your terracotta warrior. And then maybe in a bunch of years, when the original owners pass away, that terracotta warrior goes to maybe a grandson or a granddaughter. And they keep it. And then like in a couple more, they pass away, they hand it down to somebody. And then that happens a few times. Then next thing you know, it's like, someone might say, this is an original terracotta warrior that was dug out of the ground. No, whatever. You know what I mean? It's just like, it just goes down the road like that with stuff sometimes. I don't have any idea. Or it could be, no, it's just a fake piece of shit worth 50 cents. Don't worry about it. That's also a possibility too, but like, I don't know. Whatever. All I can say is they're very, very, very well painted paintings. They are not painted by a person who didn't know what they were doing. That's all I can say for sure that I know about those 2 paintings. They are very well painted by a person who was very, 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 very talented at painting. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like those paintings, you could have imaged, and if anyone wanted a version of that painting, they would be happy to buy a print of that. That's how good those are. Those are good enough to be copied and printed out as prints. And no one would be like, oh, there's a shitty version of this. I was like, no, that's a pretty good version of that scene. Like if you want one of those scenes, that's that scene. There ain't nobody gonna paint a better version of that scene. It's not possible because that's it. So yeah, that's kind of weird. So I'm investigating. I'm not gonna spend my whole life doing it, but I got to get them off the ground on the wall, out of the sun, so that's probably what I might focus on today, getting a good secured place in the wall for them, so. Fun times! Whatever. Alright, I think I went an hour. Yep, I went over. Started ranting about paintings. Oh, paintings! Alright, well, if you missed the live stream, you caught the re-upload, thanks for watching. Keep your eyes peeled for some paintings. Paintings are cool. Support your local artists, because in 1,000 years, that painting will be 1,000 years old. Alright. Peace. Later.